I'm about to tell you something so insane, you won't believe it's real. Imagine a 40-foot wave of hot molasses ripping through a city at 35 miles per hour. It sounds fake, but on January 15th, 1919, this actually happened, killing 21 people and injuring 150 others. This is the insane story of how a city street became a death trap, how a giant tank of syrup became a weapon, and how a disaster that everyone saw coming was completely ignored. To see how it all went so wrong, we have to go back in time. The year is 1919. World War I just ended, and America is about to do something crazy. Ban alcohol completely. In Boston's North End, a crowded neighborhood full of families, people are just trying to live their lives. But towering over their neighborhood was this monster 50-foot tall steel tank. This tank belonged to a giant corporation called United States Industrial Alcohol, or USIA. And what was inside? Molasses. You might put molasses in cookies, but back then, this stuff was basically liquid gold. You could ferment it to create industrial alcohol, which was a key ingredient for weapons. But the war was over, so USIA had a new master plan. Make as much rum as possible before it became illegal. And this 2.3 million gallon tank was the key to their whole operation. To the company, it was a giant piggy bank. But for the people living next to it, it was a ticking time bomb. This tank was a complete disaster from day one. They rushed building it in 1915 to make money fast, and the guy in charge wasn't even an engineer. The steel walls were way too thin and brittle to hold the insane weight of the molasses. And did they even do a proper safety test, like filling it with water to check for leaks? Nope. They did a pathetic excuse for a test and said, "Yep, looks good." Almost immediately, the tank started groaning and shaking. It was leaking so badly that kids from a neighborhood would literally come and collect free syrup in cups. But instead of fixing the giant leaking tank, the company just painted it brown so no one would see the dangerous leaks. Can you believe that? Their own employees
Sir, please.
warned them the tank was
men can't
groaning
work like
and was going
this.
to break. But the company completely ignored them.
But the
For
conditions...
nearly 4 years, they chose profits over people's lives, letting the problem get worse every single day. Then came January 15th, 1919. It got weirdly warm super fast, and this temperature jump would be the final nail in the coffin. See, just days before, they had pumped new, warmer molasses into the tank with the old, cold stuff. This likely started a chemical reaction, creating gas that basically turned the tank into a giant pressure cooker. Around 12:30 in the afternoon, it started. A loud rumble, and then BM, the sound of a machine gun, but it was actually thousands of steel rivets shooting out of the tank like bullets. What happened next was absolute chaos. The 50-foot tall tank ripped apart. 2.3 million gallons of molasses, that's nearly 13,000 tons, exploded like a volcano. It didn't just leak. It erupted, creating a giant wave of sludge moving at the terrifying speed of an express train. This wave was unstoppable. It smashed into a firehouse, killing a firefighter. It was so powerful it bent the steel girders of a railway track and lifted a streetcar right off its rails. Buildings were crushed like they were made of cardboard. If you were caught in this, you had zero chance. The force could literally crush your bones, and the thick, sticky syrup would suffocate you. A 10-year-old girl and her friend were playing and were just swallowed by the wave. Dozens of horses were drowned right where they stood, trapped in the goo. One little boy was picked up by the wave and thrown across the street. His throat so full of molasses, he couldn't even scream. After the explosion, everything went quiet, broken only by screams. The entire neighborhood was destroyed, covered in a thick, sticky blanket of death. The scene was a surreal nightmare. The whole area was a giant trap. Rescuers who rushed and got stuck in waist-deep sludge, and their boots were sucked right off their feet. They couldn't even pull the injured people out. They tried washing it away with fresh water, but it did nothing. The only thing that worked was salt water pumped from the harbor. The cleanup took thousands of hours over weeks. For months, the entire city of Boston was sticky. It was on the subways, in streetcars, inside people's houses, everywhere. The harbor was literally brown until the summer. 21 people were dead and 150 were injured. And you won't believe what the company did next. They tried to blame the explosion on anarchists. It's insane, but the people of the community refused to be silenced. 119 of them teamed up for one of the first massive class action lawsuits in Massachusetts history. The court battle took 6 years, but in the end, the evidence was undeniable, and the company was found 100% responsible. They had to pay out $628,000, what would be over $11 million today. It was a massive win for the little guy against a giant corporation. The Great Molasses Flood was more than just a crazy story. This lawsuit was a huge deal. It served as a wake-up call and led to new laws and building codes forcing companies to actually build things safely. It was one of the first times a giant corporation got completely exposed and had to pay for being so negligent, changing the rules for everyone. And the craziest part? For decades after, people in Boston swore that on hot summer days, they could still smell the sweet scent of molasses rising from the streets. A creepy reminder of the day the city ran with sweet, sticky death. If you thought this story was insane, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the history you weren't taught in school. Let us know in the comments what other historical events you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching.